So dear students, so today we will be discussing about one of the technique or tool of financial statement analysis. So basically the types of financial statement analysis, it may be internal or external on the basis of the material used, and next on the basis of the operation is called as the modus operandi. We had that horizontal and vertical analysis. So the extension is the tools or techniques. So there are a number of tools or techniques available to analyze the financial statement of the company. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಫಿನಾನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಬಂದಾಗ we are taking the two very important financial statement. One is income statement, that is called as profit and loss account, and balance sheet. So the number of tools are available: comparative, common size, trend analysis, cash flow, fund flow, and we are having break-even analysis also. So in this session, we will be focusing on what is the concept of comparative financial statement analysis. In that, we will cover the two categories: comparative balance sheet and comparative common size. And later, how we need to interpret the results. That is very important. So not only here analyzing the financial statement analysis part, but also later you need to go for some interpretation. So welcome to session number 5. So ultimately financial analysis, first of all, is nothing but where we will select the data from the financial statement. We're going for the evaluation part, and finally I told we go for interpretation of the financial data and other pertinent data. So the financial analyst must determine which information is needed and how to use it. So there are a number of users are there of financial statement analysis. It may be the internal people or in the external people. So the creditors or the investors or the bank or the government. So there are so many agencies are involved, or the parties are interested in the financial statement analysis of the company. Now basically the concept of comparative statement analysis means what? So comparison, usually you know that one company's performance can be compared with another company. Usually I think we have that comparison in colleges or in our home. So when our performance or when our result is compared with the neighbors, and the parents will be scolding us, or sometimes I think when the parents may be appreciating when I think our result is comparatively better compared to the neighbors. So there is a phenomenon. So comparative financial statement means here you are analyzing the financial position at different periods, especially the 2 years data here. So the elements of financial positions are shown in a comparative form to give an idea of financial position at 2 or more periods. So 1 year financial position will be compared with the another year. Usually we will take 1 year as previous year and another year as current year. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಹಿಂದಿನ ವರ್ಷದ ಪರ್ಫಾರ್ಮೆನ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನು ನಾವು ಈ ವರ್ಷದ ಪರ್ಫಾರ್ಮೆನ್ಸ್ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ನಾವು ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ, and we will see that where I think we improved and where we made some kind of what we can say that some kind of loopholes where we didn't achieve some target. So all these things we will come to know with the help of the comparative statement analysis. So any statement is prepared in a comparative form will be covered in the comparative statement. And this statement actually is called as horizontal analysis or dynamic analysis, because here it's based on the data from year to year rather than data of any one year. So here two types of analysis will come, dear students. Interfirm. Interfirm analysis means one company performance will be compared with another company. ನಾವಿಲ್ಲಿ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಈಗ ಒಂದೇ ಇಂಡಸ್ಟ್ರಿ ಇದು ಒಂದು ಎರಡು ಕಂಪನಿ ತಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ, ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಇನ್ಫೋಸಿಸ್ ಕಂಪನಿ performance will be compared with the TCS, the same sector. That is called as interfirm comparison. And one more is intrafirm. Intrafirm means the same company 2-year financial data will be considered for the analysis or evaluation purpose. So here we are having two categories of comparative statement. I told the first one is comparative balance sheet. So we are very familiar with the balance sheet or position statement. It represents the assets and liabilities and shareholders equity, working capital. So many data we will get with respect to the balance sheet. So comparative balance sheet analysis is the study of the trend of the same items, or we can say that the group of items, and computed items in two or more balance sheet of the same business enterprises on the different dates. So here sometimes I think we need to revise the balance sheet where we have to make some group of items. For example, current asset. So all the items in the current asset will be grouped as current asset. For example, stock, debtors, or cash balance, and all the fixed assets are grouped in one particular group. So here three steps will be there in the preparation of the comparative balance sheet. First step, you need to write the amount for your analysis purpose. So amount should be mentioned in actually column 1 and column 2 of the comparative balance sheet. So the 2 years, if information is given, you can write as 1 year as previous year, 1 year as current year. Otherwise, when you're going for interfirm, so the financial information, financial data of one company in one column, in another column, the financial data of another company. That's step 1. Step 2, what will happen? In the third column, you need to identify the absolute increase or decrease amounts. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ absolute figures ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಥವಾ ಎಷ್ಟು ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಡಿಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, that we need to calculate. The formula here is current year minus previous year. So this is done by subtracting the previous year's item amount from the current year amount. And the third column, we need to calculate the percentage change in assets and liabilities of the current year relative to the previous year. So percentage change is calculated like this. Absolute change already we calculated in the third column. Absolute change upon the absolute figure of the previous year will be considered, and it should be multiplied by 100. So we will come to know what is the percentage change in respective items. So it's very clear. First step, specify the amount in the first two columns. Second step, get the absolute change, current year minus previous year. Third step, calculate the percentage change. So this is a pro forma of the comparative balance sheet of some company I mentioned here. So you need to write like this. So first column, usually you will mention all the particulars under various heads. I told group of items, current asset and total current asset, and year you will mention. So this is actually the same company financial data for 2 years. So this is the example for a intra comparative financial statement analysis. The same company 2 years later they given 2019 and 20. So here you need to identify the absolute change and here in terms of percentage. So second, fixed assets will come. Next in the liabilities, the shareholders capital. Yeah, you can go with the current liabilities, one group first. Then long term liabilities like debenture, loan, the long term loan especially it will come here. Next, the shareholders fund. Here equity share capital, preference share capital, reserves and surplus. So all these items combined together will be considered as the shareholders fund or the owner's equity. So just we will go for one example here. How I think comparative statement will be done. So for example, we will go here with the examples we will take. So this is a land and building value for 2019 they given 54,000. Some imaginary figures we are taking. At the end of 2020, the land and building value was 34,000. Now how comparative statement will work here? So if you follow the first step, you'll identify the items. You write the amount in the first column and second column. Third column, what you will do, you need to find out absolute increase or decrease in terms of amount only. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ amount ಮುಖಾಂತರ ನಾವು ಮಾತ್ರ ಬರೆಯುವಂತದ್ದು. So I will specify here in terms of amount. Fine. Now the formula is current year 34,000 minus previous year. So that will give you minus 20,000. See, minus 20,000 because from 54,000 ಅಂದ್ರೆ 54,000 with the land and building value 2019 ಅಲ್ಲಿ 2020 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟಾಗಿದೆ 34,000 ಆಗಿದೆ. So 20,000 ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗಿದೆ in terms of absolute figures. Now what is the percentage change? What is the percentage increase or decrease? So the formula is absolute change that we taken minus 20,000 divided by the current previous year. So ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಎಷ್ಟು ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅದು ನಮಗೆ ಬೇಕು and you need to multiply it by 100 to get the percentage. See, nearly 37% of land and building is decreased. Minus ಅಂದ್ರೆ decrease ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಅರ್ಥ. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ plant and machinery we can calculate. From 62,000 you can see that it is jump to 1,57,200. Definitely increase ಆಗಿದೆ. So we need to find out that. So 1,57,200 minus 62,000. Yeah, so that will give you plus sign. It will not come here. If there is no sign, automatically we need to assume that it is plus. So it is increased by 95,200. So this is absolute change. In terms of percentage, I will get absolute change divided by the previous year into 100 ಮಾಡಲೇಬೇಕು to get the percentage. So 153% change ಆಗಿದೆ. It's nearly 3 times 50 like 3 times it is increased. So furniture also you can do the same calculation. So just I will scroll here, automatically you will get the value. See, so from 5,800 it is increased to 9,600. So difference is that 3,800. Percentage wise ಎಷ್ಟಾಗಿದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ತದೆ ನಮಗೆ. Yeah, nearly 65.51%. So it's clear. Fine. So now once you finish this analysis, so some guidelines you need to follow for interpretation. Interpretation can be done in 3 major areas. First one, you need to interpret the short-term liquidity position. Actually, the current financial position, or we are saying that short-term financial position. where we need to focus on mainly current asset and current liabilities. So what kind of changes have happened in the current assets and current liability? So if current asset is increased, it's one kind of good sign where you have sufficient current asset to make the payment of your current liability. That shows your working capital is improved. So there is one area you need to follow. Dear students, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇವಲ ಅನಾಲಿಸಿಸ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ಮಾಡೋದಲ್ಲ, you will given the problem, so you can easily compare this. It's only mathematical calculation. ಹೌದಾ? So mathematical calculation ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅಂದ್ರೆ beyond the mathematical calculation, you need to apply your logic where you need to interpret the results. So first focus on the working capital position. Second, focus on the long term financial position. So long term financial position ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಅಸೆಟ್ಸ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ how the fixed assets are financed through the long term source of finance. So there is increase in fixed assets, for example land building, plant and machinery, how the land and building or plant and machinery are purchased. So definitely the company prefer to go for like long term liabilities, or they issued debenture, or they opted a long term bank loan, or maybe they opted the issuing the fresh equity through the IPOs. And nowadays we can see that many companies they are going for initial public offer, IPO. So you need to see that why the company is making IPO decision, whether they want to expand their operation or whether they want to pay off their liabilities. And last one, the focus on profitability of the concern, where their reserve fund or where their surplus is increased or not. So all these three areas you need to identify and give some concluding remarks with respect to the overall financial position. Fine. Next one is comparative income statement. So comparative income statement, what will happen here? It's like a profit and loss account only, but comparative income statement will give a broad picture about the revenue and the expenses. So the income statement, you know that it will give the result of operation of the business. So comparative income statement also will give an idea of the progress of business over a period of time. So you can compare the profitability or the expenses of 1 year with another year. So the changes in absolute data in money values as well as in terms of percentage can be determined through this comparative income statement. And finally, in the interpretation, you can analyze the profitability of the business. So that is the concept of the comparative income statement. So here also I think the same step. First step, you specify the amount in column number 1 and 2 as per the format of income statement. So pro forma I will explain now. In step 2, the same thing, determine the absolute change, current year minus previous year, and finally in the third step, you need to find out the percentage change. Percentage change, how will find out? Absolute change, that is increase or decrease, divided by the absolute figure of the previous year. So previous year value we have to take here and multiplied by 100. So this is a simple pro forma of the income statement. So particulars you need to write previous year, current year, and absolute increase or decrease in terms of amount and percentage wise increase or decrease. So income statement will be like this: net sales less cost of goods sold, gross profit. You will get operating expenses, gross profit here, operating profit we need to write here. From operating profit we need to, from gross profit we need to minus operating expenses. Then you will get operating profit less non-operating expenses. Like for example, we can say that loss on sale of the fixed assets, and we need to add the non-operating income. For example, if you receive dividend or if you receive interest, so all these are non-operating income. So finally you will get earnings before tax, like that we can consider, and if you deduct the tax you will get ultimately the profit after tax. So guidelines are very important here. So how we need to evaluate the results? So first focus on like increase or decrease in sales. It should be compared with the increase or decrease in cost of goods sold. So that is the impact you will get on gross profit. Then next, increase or decrease in net profit. Ultimately, I think you will get the overall profitability of the company, and the interpretation with respect to the expenses. So you need to find out whether we are having sufficient operating profit or whether we are having sufficient gross profit to cover our operating expenses. So all these analysis you can make with the help of the comparative income statement. So we'll go for one example here, how comparative income statement will work. Just for your reference here. Yeah. So we take some examples here. So Alpha Limited and Beta Limited here I considered. It's like a inter-firm comparative income statement. So Alpha Limited performance will be compared with the Beta Limited. See. So in the last example, we took intra-firm, same company, 2 years data. Here, two companies, one particular year. So sales what happened? From 8,000 sales is increased to 10,000. Andre ಅಲ್ಲಿ easily we can identify that in the Beta Limited sales is increased by 2,000. So I will come to know that current year minus previous year. So that will give you 2,000. So Beta Limited is achieved additional 2,000 sales. So in terms of percentage we need to know that how absolute change divided by, here the base only we are taking, Alpha Limited will be compared, correct? So Alpha Limited will be taken as a denominator, so multiplied by 100. So the Beta Limited sales is increased by 25%. Similarly, if you drag this, automatically you will get the value here. The three values we will see percentage wise also we'll get that. Yeah. So interpretation purpose you can use this actually. So sales is increased by 25%, but cost of goods sold is increased only by 16%. That's why I think ultimately gross profit is increased by 50%. So this is the analysis part of the income statement. Fine. Yeah. Ultimately, through this particular comparative financial statement, you can analyze the company's financial position for 2 years, minimum for 2 years, and ultimately you can able to interpret the results. So once we will have a recap on the session. So comparative statement is nothing but analyzing the financial position at a different period, especially for 2 years. And in that, first is comparative balance sheet. Here the steps are explained. This is the pro forma of the balance sheet. And next, the guidelines for the interpretation and comparative income statement, the steps, the pro forma, and guidelines with some examples we discussed. Thank you.